Good morning. I'm back again. Finally made it home from work. Decided I was gonna do another video, real quick video. Had been having some trouble with my Elite 6-Pack Pro when I was reloading 223. The case feeder, whenever it would feed a case, from time to time the case on the bottom would slip out, and then it would try and double feed cases and things of that nature. It wasn't feeding properly the larger cases. I didn't have a problem with the 9mm and stuff like that, but I don't see why this mod that I'm fixing to show you and how I built it, how it would not be useful for those also, the shorter cases and so forth. This mod was one that I'd seen on a page that I follow. It was a Lee reloading page. I can't remember the guy's name who shared it. If I find it, I'll post it in the description below, or edit later and add the guy's name to give credit where credit is due. This is not my design. This is something that I seen and thought, well, hey, I can build that myself. Share how I built it, and if you like it, then give the video a thumbs up, subscribe. This is a new channel. I'm just getting started with this. Basically it's just a channel for outdoors and DIYers, reloading, hunting, things of that nature. I am by no means a fantastic cinematographer. I guess that's what it's called, but I am pretty crafty and do have a little bit of knowledge of the stuff that I actually like to deal with. So let me put you on pause for a second and change things around. I'll show you what I've got. Okay, so this is what I've built. It's basically a flapper rather, that rides on the press, and I'll show you how it sits here in just a minute. And it basically keeps just one case at a time falling into the case feeder on your press. I was having a problem with whenever you go up and it would feed another case into the case slider, it would eject a couple of shells out, and it was just a pain in the rear. So I'm going to get set up, show you everything I used to build this and how I built it. Maybe even build a second one, just so you can see how I did it. Okay, so what I've got is a piece of 450 Bushmaster brass. You can use any type of brass you want. Actually, you can use anything you want to make the little flapper part of this. I just happen to have on my original one a piece of 50 A&E that I cut the head off of and split it down the side and hammered it out flat. Took a file and trimmed the edges down. I'm going to try and use this 45 or 450 Bushmaster, just because that's the only thing I got on hand. I'll trim it up and all that stuff here in just a minute. But first off, I'm gonna get it in my vise, get it cut the end off of it here, and then split it down the side, and then I'll go to hammering it out. That's it. Yeah, it's a little bit warm, but we'll throw that away. Alright, now to get it split down the middle. Now what we're going to do is we're going to split this right down the middle here. It's, it is what it is. I apologize for the video being shaky. I'm not going to film the whole thing. I'm just going to show you how I did it, just to get started. Just because you're trying to saw on a rounded surface here. I started angled down in one direction and then just slowly work my way down the brass until I get it completely cut. Once you get to a certain point, it's going to bind the blade up because the vise is holding it tighter than the rest of it. But anyway, you can see what I've got there. And that's it. It's done. Alright, so basically we're going to try and spread this open some initially with pliers. Once I get it opened up a little bit, I'll take my hammer and I'll smash it out flat here just to make it look better. Alright, not quite sure what happened there. Video just shut off on me. I got an SD card error. We're going to continue in hammering this out. If it continues to give me trouble, I may have to change my SD card. Alright, that's fairly flat, just like I want it. Once I finish filing up the edges and what have you, I'll be back to you here in just a second. I'll show you how I attach the sleeve to it. Okay, so I've got my sleeve that I'm going to use. I've kind of marked a somewhat line across the piece of brass that I'm wanting to use. I'm going to cut it with a pair of tin snips to get the basic width that I'm going to want to have. If you don't have tin snips, this can be a little bit of a pain in the butt, but they're cheap. You can get them at Walmart. They're not that expensive for a set of 3 of them. Harbor Freight tools are good for just, you know, short time, you know, once or twice uses and stuff like that. Now, so what I've got now is I've got a thick end and I've got a thin end on this. What I'm going to want is I want the thin end more towards the slider. So when I build this, I'm going to build it to where like this one, that's the way it's going to sit on your press, and it's going to the slider pushes it open and it folds it back closed. Anyway, I'll show you that after I get it taken care of, get that all put together. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead, file these sharp edges and stuff on this piece of brass, and then we'll get to soldering this on. Okay, so what I've done is I've filed off the sharp edges using just a standard flat file. I'm going to take a piece of sanding block now, and I'm going to kind of polish up a little bit of this. I'm not real sure what the grit on this is. It's 150 on the red and 220 on the yellow. So I'm going to use the 220 side. I'm not wanting to take any material off. I'm just wanting to scuff this up. So whenever I go to soldering this, I'm going to also scuff this sleeve here. And when I go to soldering it together, that way it'll give something for the silver solder to adhere to better. I would suggest using silver solder because it's a higher temp, a little bit stronger. Using just regular solder for electrical wiring is not going to be as strong as the silver solder. This is basically the type of solder that you use for soldering more of copper piping and things of that nature. But if all you have is the electrical solder, as long as it's got a high silver content, it should work. I'm using a flux core, so I don't have to put any flux on the material itself. Once I get all this prepped, I'll get it pretty much held in place the way I want it in a pair of vice grips I have here, and then I'll start soldering. So let me get all this set up, and I'll be right back to you. All right, so I've got this set up. I've got it held in place with my vice grips. I want to check to make sure that I haven't got too large of a gap right here. So I kind of had to tap some more metal, tap the brass, and get it flattened out a little bit better than what I had it. You can use your vice grips to pinch it together a little bit better. And then what you'll do is you'll use just a regular propane torch, and basically you're going to sweat this stuff in, is what they call it. I believe that's the correct term for it. And that kind of looks like this here. So remember, when you're working with this stuff, use a lot of ventilation. Don't need to be very high. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just heating it up. And then once I get it heated up, I'm going to start feeding the material into it. As you can see now, I want to get both sides. This stuff will remain hot for a little bit, so be careful with it. Try not to touch it. Alright, that should do it. Turn this off. Alright, I'm going to go run this under some cold water so it'll cool down to where I can touch it. And get the hole drilled in it. We'll show you the finished product. I also wanted to mention, whenever you put this sleeve on, you want to get it as straight as you can. I mean, I got it fairly straight on here, but I had to fiddle fart with it for a little bit just to get it to where I wanted it. I don't know which one of these I'm going to keep. I know this one's just a hair bit longer than what I'd like, but it's not unusable. So I'm going to try one of the two, and I'm going to try the second one actually. Once I get the hole drilled in it, then we'll get it put on the press, and I'll show you how it works. All right, stand by. All right, so what I want to do is I want to put a hole in this bottom corner down here, and that's going to be where I attach my spring that does the work. So let me get that drilled in real quick, and we'll go from there. Alright, so the size hole that I'm drilling is a 1/16 inch hole. I put that hole in the piece here, so whenever I get it on the machine, the spring will hook to that, and the slider will actually open and allow it to close. The spring will keep tension on it. The spring that I used was just a spring from just an everyday click pin. Again, this is a prototype. I'm just testing it out to see how it's going to work. If it works great, then fine, I won't mess with it. If that spring wears out, I can always go and get a comparable spring at Lowe's or Home Depot or somewhere like that in their specialty connections aisles. So once you destroy that pin, you can just throw it away. Now, connecting it to the press. On the 6-Pack Pro, they've got this plastic case ejector. So what I did was I took and I found a spot that's right between the shell plate and where it goes into the press itself. And I took that same drill bit, drilled a 1/16 inch hole from the bottom. The reason I've done it from the bottom is because there's kind of like almost a guide in the channel right here. Then I took a small cotter pin, just one of the smallest I could find. I fed it through, kind of marked where I wanted to cut it. I cut that cotter pin, used a couple of pliers, stuck it through there and bent it over to where that small channel kind of actually holds it in place. So once I put it on the vise, and I'll show you here in just a minute, then I can hook the spring to that there. Don't have to use any, it's not in the way of the ejection port. It doesn't impede the press in any way. So let me get this set up and I'll show you how I put it together. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to install the shell ejector. Show you how that works. It's kind of hard doing this with one hand. I know my hand's in the way of everything right now. So that goes into place. As you can see, this doesn't impede the shell plate in any way. All right. So next, we take our case feeder. We get it set up to accept the door. Once I get this set up, I'll be right back to you. So stand by. All right, so you take your case feeder, you take your little piece you just built. You want the hole you drilled at the bottom facing the press when you put your case feeder together. So we're going to set this up as per the instructions for 223 brass. And it says with any brass, you take, once you get your case feeder set in place, you want it to basically be a penny's width above the case that's sitting in the pusher. So when that comes and drops down, you want to look right here, and as you can see, it's not quite a penny's width. That's close enough for government work there. All right, we'll get that locked down. I'm going to set this to where it's a little bit further back. All right, so now we start affixing our spring. Spring goes on right here like this. We'll come down. So what we've done is we've essentially attached the spring here on the case ejector to the door that holds the flap up against the case pusher. And what that does is when your next case drops in, your shell on the bottom doesn't kick out. In theory, that's the way this is supposed to work. So I'm going to take and set up to put a couple of rounds through here, just run it dry, and I'll be right back to you and we'll see how this works. All right, so right now I've got it set up. You can see how the door itself is pushed open by the slider whenever you're in the upstroke on your handle. As you come down and the slider rotates back, the door closes, thus capturing the shell inside the slider. And as you rotate forward, it allows it to feed into the case, feed into the shell plate. Downstroke. I'm not going to go like I'm doing a but believe it or not, I've run this several times and it has fixed my issue I had with the 223 shells kicking out and allowing me to keep from having to constantly pick shells up and what have you. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more content like this and other outdoorsy stuff. I tend to do some hunting video. I'll do some hunting videos and things of that nature, and we'll see how this goes. But so far, this is working great. Again, I'm not exactly sure who to credit for the idea. This was just my own tweaking of what I'd seen on a page that I follow. So if you have any questions or anything like that, just ask in the comments below. Alright, so we're going to start running a few rounds here. You'll have to forgive the shakiness of the video. I'm currently trying to do this one-handed. I tried to do it with the body-mounted camera. It just didn't seem right. I kept losing sight of the press and everything, but it's going to display how the mod works here. I've got it set up right now to use some H335. We're just going to go ahead and load a few rounds. So I'm going to, again, I'm doing this one-handed, so be patient with me. Believe me, this goes a lot faster when I'm using both hands. As you can see, the mod door keeps the next shell that falls down from your case feeder from jumping out. Doesn't cause any undue stress on anything. I was having an issue that whenever I would come to the end of the downstroke with the handle, right in here, this case would be kicked out because of the next case coming down on top of it. So it would cause a couple of them to feed, and it would bugger up the operations of everything, and I'd have to get it all straightened out and get it to where it was functioning again. Now I don't have to worry about that part. So once I get the bullet feeder dies that I'm hoping come out the next couple of months, these supposed to have some, I believe, in March that are coming out. Again, y'all have to forgive me on this video. I'm doing this one-handed and by myself. Once they come out, I'm going to purchase a couple of them, set them up on this this jewel, and see how it runs. It's saying around 500 cases an hour, or 500 cartridges an hour. I think it probably run a little faster than that, as long as you keep things clean and going. Again, it's a great press. I'm really enjoying it. I'm liking the functionality of it. I got a little bit of spilled powder, but that was from where I was setting up. So I have checked. Some of these earlier presses were shipped with the primer arms that would stick and get gummed up with powder because of a powder dump or powder spillage, and it wouldn't function properly. My press has the newer upgraded version, so I don't have to worry about that. Everything else, like I said, seems to be running great. This mod right here has really changed the way the case feeder works. I'm going to try it also with 9mm and other calibers that I reload. I may leave this on there all the time. I may not. It just depends on what happens in the future. So we'll see. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This little device here that I built. The parts were just scavenged. I don't even know where I got all of the parts for it. I do know that I made the flapper out of a piece of 50 A&E, and this one out of the one that I put on the press here is the 450 Bushmaster. The sleeves were just random things from my junk drawer. It just so happened that it fits perfect on the bolt that holds the case feeder. Again, you know, a little bit of skill with soldering helps out. If you don't have a whole lot of it, it's not that hard. There's plenty of videos on YouTube. Of course, you've seen just how I did it. I didn't use anything special. It was just a lead core or a silver solder with flux core. Be sure that your brass or whatever metal you're soldering together is flat enough to where whenever you hold that in place, that there's not a whole lot of gap to fill in. Everything else was just stuff I had laying around the house, you know, from the Carter pens to the ink pen that I destroyed to get the spring out of. You don't have to buy a whole lot of stuff, you know. If you already crafty with things, you've got some of this stuff laying around as it is. In closing, this thing is working great. Originally, this design, I wish I knew who to credit for this, because this is not my design. This is something that I seen on one of the other pages. The person that posted this also said that this was not his design and he didn't know who it was. If y'all know, comment and let me know. I would love to give him credit for this, because I know it was designed originally for the 1000, the Pro 1000, which has a very similar case feed system. I adapted it to work with the 6-pack Pro, and it works great. I haven't had any case kick out, I guess you'd call it, where it just feeds multiple cases onto your slider. That being said, I've only run about 100 rounds through there since I built the initial one, the 1.0. The 2.0 I think I'm gonna keep on there because A, it looks a little bit better, and B, it's more of what I was originally wanting to do anyway. So thanks again for watching. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to have more content coming to this channel. I'm just getting it started. I'll be doing hunting videos, be doing more reloading videos, boating and fishing videos, kayaking. It's just as the channel suggests. It's an outdoor channel. I know that's a lot to kind of grasp, but I do a lot of outdoorsy stuff and DIY stuff, especially with my reloading and boating and hunting and things of that nature. So hit the like, hit the subscribe. Thank you for watching.